There are so many interesting, horrifying, or downright weird things in this big world of ours.
Each week, we'll bring you a new true crime story that has little to no coverage in English.
Let us do the translations, so you don't have to. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I felt a bit awkward because you were looking away and then I was like, okay, do I say something or not? Okay, anyway. Yes.
I was muting my notifications on other apps and didn't see that it actually started.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, good. We won't get any Slack notifications like da-dun or the click noises in the background.
Or any other things, hopefully. WhatsApp, I don't know, weird browser sounds. Well, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we have any more pickle news. I think we've been pretty much.
Well, I have a little bit of pickle. Not a pickle, but I mean pickle news. We have started, or we have tested out dehydrating pickles.
Oh yeah, yeah. Petty, he was making some sauce out of that, right? Like some powdered pickles.
No, he wanted to create like pickle powder and use it as like spice on fries and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then I don't know if it's so. We haven't actually made the powder, but we have dehydrated the pickles. But I feel like they're still, even though the dehydration took a long time, and we have restarted it many times, they're still like a little bit juicy and not, crumbly dry to actually create a powder from them. So I wouldn't call this a successful experiment, but
I would wonder, just like as a note, because you know how you would create more surface area for the pickle. So if you would chop them up into a fine pieces already, and then it would be less juicy because then you'd have more surface area from the pieces of pickle and then spread it out, on the mat. I think that would maybe work better than whole pickles.
Yeah, I mean they were sliced, but it could be that if it was minced or something would be better. I was wondering if it's the sugar content, if it was too sweet and somehow that's why
you have the wrong pickles. Did you use the Euro East pickles?
No, some Felix,
that's
some American style. I think they were too
No. You're just using
because I think those
pickles.
have too much. Those have too much sugar for me anyway. The American pickles, they're
So
I think mincing.
That's my news. Nothing too exciting, but some experiments going on.
We need to get a freeze dryer. Freeze dryer would be would be perfect.
I was thinking the same. The freeze dryer would be probably a better tool for this, but yeah.
Oh well.
Any other pickle stuff?
No.
Well, good that I had something at least.
Yeah, I mean, we saw someone on the weekend with the Murtisen sweater, and I was kind of jealous.
On the bus.
Yeah, on the bus, yeah.
Did you say something oh, you have such a cool t-shirt?
No, because we were outside of a metal, we went to metal festival, Helsinki Metal Festival, we do every year. We've gone every year, Victoria. Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
And I don't know. It's always awkward to talk to a guy, especially
but he was at the bus, right?
So but he was at the bus stop. He was at the bus stop with us.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so because I clocked the Murtisen sweater early, and I was like, oh, I was gonna say something to you, but I was like, fuck it, whatever. But then the guy, I don't know, it's always awkward talking to a guy outside of a metal festival because they're probably drunk, and usually the drunk ones come up and talk to you anyway, and you don't want to you don't want to start the conversation because then they might think that you're actually into them, but you're not, and
we just actually like pickles.
We just really like pickles,
Yeah, that's the scary thing, that people always assume that there is not even sexual or any that kind of meaning, but in other ways too, you say something and there is this assumption of it not just meaning that I want to say that you have a cool shirt because I think you have a cool shirt. I don't have any other meaning with this comment.
Yeah, that happened to me also. I was in Soribruin in Helsinki one time, and a guy was wearing a Mastodon t-shirt, and I was like, oh, I like your t-shirt. That's very cool. And then he was kind of wanting to have more of a conversation after. I'm like, oh, no, I don't know. No, sorry, no. No,
it was only
I just thought you had a cool
band.
T-shirt.
Yeah,
it was really only about Mastodon, but okay.
But I think it's safer usually, like between women, maybe because there is the culture, like I don't know how to put it non-weirdly, but like woman culture of praising each other in a different way that you don't have maybe between men or between a woman or man. Like between women, you can just be like, oh, you have such a nice dress. And it's just like, you just want to be like, I know that you're a nice dress. I know that you probably thought that, oh, today I'm going to put my nice dress on. You're happy when someone notices it and says something nice about it, and that's it. You're not like, okay, wow, let's be best friends.
Yeah.
But if you say something like to a man, there is the possibility of like, okay, so you like me as a man, right?
Yeah.
Because of my T-shirt.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. There's this one Instagram reel that I saw. This guy was complimenting this woman exactly like you, like, oh, like, I like your dress. And she's like, fuck you or whatever. Or like, oh, you know, giving him like the look. And he's like, no, I meant, I like your dress, you know, like in the gay accent. And he was like, and she was like, oh, great. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And it was like immediate fucking change, like complete 180 about how she reacted to him. Cause it's like, if you're straight and you make a comment on like how I'm looking, no, please no. But if you're gay, hell yeah. It was fucking perfect.
But I mean, it's because men are like straight men are perceived as a threat more often for a good reason. So I mean, of course, many of them, you know, we might get some comments from people who are offended by these comments, but like, you know, based on statistics, there's a reasonable amount of data behind it to make those assumptions. So you want to be a bit more careful.
And it was really awkward, like when we were at the metal festival, Victoria and I were hanging in the shade. Like, okay, well, which time? Anyway, but like
this happened several times.
Yes, several times. Should we just go through all of them? No, I don't know,
well, I think just describe the experience in general.
Okay,
so
the experience.
You are in the shadow?
Yeah, we were in the shadows. We were like hanging out during the day, and we were waiting. I think it was just like Mr. Min had just ended, and we're like, oh, let's just go hang out in the shade. And there's like porta potties nearby, whatever, and other people are also hanging out in the shade because the shade is very limited here. And then like me and Victoria were talking, and then I was like describing the Michael Jackson case, like, and like how he was, I don't know, like being accused of raping children and like blah 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 blah, and going through all this stuff. And
people are like deep in this conversation.
Deep in conversation.
Michael Jackson being a pedophile or not.
Or not, or like this documentary, and we were like literally going into like some details and like, how he was denying this, and like how he was doing cocaine with people like in a hotel room after he like fled from allegations and stuff. And that's what I was telling, like, and he was doing cocaine. And then this guy comes up and he's like, what did he even say? He's like, basically, what's the vibe or something, or like, you know, kind of question,
how you doing?
Know, like how you doing, kind of like what's the vibe, etc. And it was like, good. And then you asked like, so who was this? And I was like, it was Michael Jackson. And then I was like, and then we were like continuing the conversation in front of him, and it was so fucking awkward because he starts speaking in Finnish, hanging out, and we're like, and we answer in Finnish, and then it was like, and then we just continue speaking in English about Michael Jackson, and it's so fucking awkward.
It was awkward because then he didn't leave immediately.
Just heard cocaine, so he's like. You know someone,
I don't even know.
But wait a minute, you say that this happened several times. Were you just randomly? How many times did you discuss about Michael Jackson?
No,
not even Michael Jackson.
Yeah. The other time, I don't know what we were talking about, but I think both of these times, or maybe it happened more than twice. I think maybe
3 times.
Twice.
I think it was 3,
maybe
right?
3. Maybe.
Almost 4, 3.5. But
was there any common pattern, like you talking about drugs?
No, we were just talking.
No.
But
because they were like, oh, I heard them talking about cocaine. I'll try if they can sell it. Because that's something I could imagine happening in festival.
I don't think they heard what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because it was noisy and everything. We were just talking.
So they were just like 2 people talking. I try to
and it did, but I don't understand, because I don't think we seemed like 2 lost people who are like waiting for a man to come up to them and like
it's like we're like usually very deep in our conversation. Usually when it would happen, it's like we were very deep, so maybe we just like were giving this air of oh, we're I don't know what the fuck, but it was always when we were deep in conversation, and then it was like such an affront to someone, like,
but
hey, how's it going?
I share the experience. Like, okay, nowadays I don't go randomly that much to bars, but when I did go to bar in Tallinn a couple of weeks ago, this did happen. Like, we were discussing, we were having an actual conversation with my friend, and then these two guys came and wanted to join. So I feel that this is a thing. You are just like, these two people maybe we seem to have more fun with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll join them.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, we give this air of funness or like lightness maybe, and we're not being too serious. We're not giving like resting bitch face because we're, like talking to each other and just, we seem approachable. I don't fucking know. But
then we immediately turn unapproachable.
Yeah, we're just like, oh no, we're good. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I'm speechless. And then he goes away. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the Michael Jackson one was a little bit, like the guy was a bit less creepy. The other guy was very creepy. So I don't know. It also depends. But I just kind of default to maybe no, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Or they're like too drunk to even say anything, and they just hold your hand or try to shake your hand or fist bump you.
Okay, that's not nice,
No.
Like, I'm still okay with this. Like, there's lots of people, and like, it's kind of space of getting to know new people. So trying to enter to a conversation, that's still like okay to me, as long as you understand pretty soon that, like, if you are not welcome.
But I feel like there are more natural ways of doing this. Somehow, not just like walking up to someone in their face.
Yeah, but like, I don't want to be too cruel about people being clumsy, like socially clumsy. Like, if they're not mean or like they don't seem to have anything bad in mind, then I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit weird way to approach.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, but then my part is like, also like, we don't owe anybody anything. It's like, fuck politeness in some regards. But I mean, none of them felt like they were going to do anything. And usually the metal people are usually the nicest people, in my opinion. So like, I never feel unsafe around metal people. Maybe just a bit annoyed if they get super drunk, but that's about it.
Like, and like touching, that's something I don't like. No, even if it's just a handshake, like, let's just keep it. You can talk to me, then, and I can say no more.
Yeah.
And then you have to believe that I don't want to talk to you, or maybe I want to talk to you, and then we can continue talking.
Yeah.
Just don't touch.
We also talked about this interesting pattern that happened at least last year, but I think several times it tends to happen that you're just like hanging out and you feel like someone is staring at you and then you look around and then you notice that someone is actually staring at you, but you accidentally make eye contact.
But
then you look away.
Because you're trying to find the one who's staring at you.
Yes, and then you look away, but then like a minute later you're like, are they still staring at me? So then you look again and you make eye contact again accidentally, and somehow they think that's a sign. That you're interested.
Start coming closer, like, I saw you looking at me.
But then it's because they're like acting kind of weird. So you're like, why are you staring at me? But they think, you might be interested. So that's
an in.
Happen.
Yeah. Never make eye contact, especially late in the night at a metal festival. Don't make eye contact unless that's
it's difficult because you also have to be a sage checking around that nobody's like, I don't know, following you or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
This year, at least, no one licked me.
True. But that was a female that licked you last time. So, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to be licked by anyone. I
wasn't very happy about it.
I'm not agreeing. Yeah. Like, licking it's something that needs consent. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, okay. I think that was enough talk about festivals and creepy people and pickles. Okay. So it is my turn to have this episode, and
I was like, how are you going to transition it into the story?
I mean, creepy people would be maybe involved. Just
maybe like, or pissing people off. So I'm hoping I'm not going to piss off any of the Serbian listeners or Croatian or anybody. Yeah. Anyway,
but
people
like if
who
there
were
was
in the former,
if there's murder, there's creepiness.
Yeah,
I think it's creepy by default to murder someone.
Yeah, for sure. Or crime in general can be creepy, I guess. Like, in the broader sense. Yeah. But so anybody who was in the former, like lived in the former Yugoslavia, sorry if this pisses you off. It shouldn't. I mean, I'm just making general claims and very briefly going through stuff. So yeah. So I found this case because there was an article, I happened upon an article back from October of 2025 about Nebojša Pavkovic and how he was in a Finnish prison located in Kylmäkoski. Gives Kylmäkoski like central Finland. Anyway, he's there. Or he was there. And apparently in 2009, he was sentenced and then in 22 years, I believe. And then in 2025, he was sent back to Serbia due to like medical reasons. And so I was curious why he was sent to Finland and if there's other cases like this. And of course, like the sentencing in this case was done in The Hague for international crimes. But the material I pulled this from like also was in English. So FYI, like, you know how we're translation murder podcast. I got most of this stuff because of course it's international court. International means like English is going to be the main language that it's covered in. But I did get the information from the start from a Finnish article in Yle. So haha.
Okay, it counts. Fine.
It counts, right?
Fine.
Right.
I don't want the standard to be that all the sources need to be always in the non-English language, but wasn't our motto that cases that don't have lots of coverage in English?
Yeah.
So
yes.
I don't know if this was in the English-speaking world newsletter.
Yeah, I think like from this angle, there's not a lot of English coverage, but there is like a good documentary from the BBC called The Death of Yugoslavia. So, I mean, technically there is a lot of information about the, Serbian or Bosnian War and that type of stuff in like former Yugoslavia, but
but probably not the point that he was in Kylmäkoski.
Exactly,
prison.
in Finland, yeah.
By the way, I just checked, Kylmäkoski is close to Toijala. So,
okay.
So like a bit south from Tampere.
It's at Pirkanmaa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of close-ish to me. So yeah, cool. So today's story is going to be about the former Yugoslavia and what happened after the verdicts and stuff were delivered from some of the people that carried out crimes. Yeah, that's kind of it. So, and then I can do another episode that's already prepared about other people. So not just from former Yugoslavia, but actually from Africa. There's like a couple different conflicts there that have some people that were also sentenced in Finland. Actually, their trials were in Finland.
The Rwanda war crime case.
Yes. Yeah. There's Gabriel Masakwa and I forget the other guy's name. But yeah. Anyway, so I'll cover those in like another episode, but they're kind of tied because it's like the theme of, being sentenced in Finland or being like, sequestered in Finland, I guess, in prison.
For something you definitely did not do in Finland.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Or
exactly. So
I think there was some case that someone was involved in something while they were in Finland because world is digital and so on. But anyway, maybe not the point of today. I don't think the Yugoslavia case will have that aspect.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's start off with some definitions of things. Like, what is a war crime? Do you guys know what a war crime is specifically? I'm joking. You don't have to answer that.
I have a concept of it.
Yeah, I do. Okay. For many reasons. I have the concept of war crime.
Yeah, but there's like, okay, so, as we know, war is chaotic, it's violent, but there's like laws that kind of govern warfare. So it's not just like a free for all in the grand scheme of thing, because then, you'll hear like, oh, they're going to be charged for war crimes or quote unquote crimes against humanity. But what does that actually mean? So there are like conventions to war. And in the past, countries have agreed that even during armed conflict, there must be limits to what soldiers and commanders are allowed to do. And these rules are primarily founded from the Geneva Convention of 1949 and their additional protocols. And they're aimed to protect civilians, prisoners of war, medical workers, media, anybody kind of like along those lines. And these conventions prohibit torture, the murder of detainees, rape, and other forms of sexual violence, and most importantly, deliberately targeting civilians with these actions. And when those rules are intentionally broken, the people responsible can be prosecuted for war crimes. But these war crimes are only one category of international crime. Another crime would be crimes against humanity that I previously mentioned. And unlike war crimes, these don't necessarily require an international war between countries to be, like instated or called this, but instead they involve widespread or systematic attacks directed against civilians. So it could be like their own country or something doing this against their own people. So examples would include murder, torture, imprisonment, deportation, prosecution, rape, and enforced disappearance when committed as a part of a broader attack on a civilian population. And there's like one of these crimes that like would be considered, like everyone's heard of this term, and it is called genocide. So genocide is very specific, and it isn't simply like about the number of deaths. To be called genocide doesn't matter about the number of deaths, but it's actually committing certain acts, including killing, with the intent to destroy in a whole or part a nation, like a national, ethnic, or racial or religious group. And the specific intent is what makes genocide one of the most difficult crimes to prove in court, because people could be like, well, I just, I wanted that land or something. I wasn't trying to eradicate a people. It's just, it's, what is the intention behind that? Well, it's kind of difficult to say. Yeah. Any questions so far? It's pretty straightforward.
Right? Yeah, but it's good that you define these, because I mean, like, of course, I think most people have an idea of what all of these mean, but I think it's good to give a more concrete definition. But yeah, and it's also true that it's probably very difficult to prove genocide.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of sometimes difficult to prove, like first versus second degree murder. Like, was there actually intention? Yeah, is exactly. Very difficult to prove. But so, yeah, the idea that political and military leaders could be personally prosecuted for these crimes, like genocide or crimes against humanity or, war crimes, is relatively new. So following the Second World War, Allied nations established the Nuremberg trials. I'm sure everyone's heard of that. That's definitely covered in English quite extensively, I think. And this is where, and I'll just go over it very, very briefly, but senior Nazi officials were prosecuted for crimes that shocked the conscience of the world. So these trials established a revolutionary principle that governments do not commit crimes, people do. So no matter if you're a president, general, prisoner, commander, or soldier, you can be held personally liable for your actions. And so, for nearly 50 years after the Nuremberg trials, there's no permanent international war crimes tribunal. Like there hasn't been one for like 50 years since, except for, in this aftermath of the Yugoslavian conflict. And I don't know, I just was thinking about today, like today's world and like the news and stuff, and how people are, especially in the States, by waiting for some administration changes to take over, and people are going to be tried for things, and, there's always the excuse that, I was told to do this, by higher ups, but that's not an excuse at all. So if you question, for instance, what someone's telling you, especially if you're US military or something, you're supposed to, you're not expected to follow orders to a T. You're supposed to, quote unquote, defend the Constitution or whatever. So in these instances, like, it's not an excuse to just blindly follow orders.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, of course, this is also something that's probably not super black and white, because it's usually things escalate kind of like gradually. So
yeah,
like violence and things that things that seem like normally very not okay, they, after a while, if they just you just get used to it gradually, they might feel normal after a while. So of course I'm not trying to make excuses or defend anyone who's committing horrible things, but it just like usually doesn't happen overnight. And then
it's not like one day some official comes to your house and is like, you have to murder a mother, and then you're like, okay, if you say so. It's more like this, people start to do it. You're like, oh, my neighbor murdered his mother too. Like, it's a thing now. People just do it. Like, the government wants us to murder our mothers, so I guess I have to do that too.
Or first we just criticize them a little bit.
Weird example, but like.
But first we just criticize them, and then we blame them for things, and then we say that, but then they are ruining things for everyone else. And I don't know, like it kind of goes like this over time, and then in the end we end up with something like the Holocaust, which is insane, of course. But then, if anyone who actually committed those horrible things would have been asked to do them on day one, they would have said, what the fuck, like, this is insane. But then, because
I think just everyone should have the idea or the mindset, like, would I be tried for war crimes like in this, like, eventually could I be found for that, like, then everyone would be safe, just think that in your mind, is this fucked up enough to be a war crime, but
but then also, like, a lot of people don't really have such critical thinking, so
and also people are like more living in the moment, in the sense you're like, oh my god, if I don't do this what is told to me, I will get a punishment right now, rather than like, if I do it, someone might punish me in some trial that happens in 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's just to say that it's complicated.
It's a difficult topic.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
But often these people who are in the actual war crime courts, they are very, like, they are still not the commoners who were like. I just feel that historically it's still the, like, more up guys, higher ups who get the actual
head
punishment.
on the chopping block. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So Yugoslavia, of course, had once been a country, like one country, and it was made up now of, it's made up of many different countries that are existing now. So it was home to many different ethnic groups, religions, and cultures. And after the death of President Josip Broz Tito, the economic difficulties and rising nationalism gradually weakened the federation. So by the early, and this is very, very quick overview, because we're going to get to the people who are in Finland, so try not to piss anybody off and just say the facts, kind of. So by the early 1990s, several republics declared independence, and the result was a series of armed conflicts in Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and later Kosovo. And the Bosnian War was fought between 1992 and 1995, and this became the deadliest conflict in Europe since the Second World War. So more than 100,000 people were killed, millions were displaced, and communities were basically torn apart that had been, living together in harmony, or just living together for generations. So, and all sides in this conflict committed violations of international humanitarian law, and the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, or also known as the ICTY, would later prosecute individuals from Bosnian Serb, Bosnian Croatia, Bosniak, Croatian, Serbian, and Kosovo Albanian forces. Oh, that was a long Bosnian Serb, Bosnian Croat, Bosniak, Croatian, Serbian, and Kosovo Albanian forces. Yeah. Okay. Long list. And the tribunal's guiding principle was straightforward. So it didn't want to judge nations, ethnic groups. It just wanted to judge the individuals from these forces. And each case stood or fell on the evidence, and some defendants were convicted, and not all were convicted. Some were actually acquitted too. So in May 1993, while the fighting was still underway, the United Nations Security Council created the ICTY. And this was the first international war crimes tribunal since Nuremberg. And it basically wanted to investigate atrocities, gather evidence, interview witnesses, recover mass graves, and prosecute anybody they considered most responsible for serious violations of international humanitarian law. And during its lifetime, the tribunal indicted 161 individuals. And yeah, so this kind of was groundbreaking in the case of international criminal law. And the ICTY produced landmark judgments on genocide, command responsibility, torture, persecution, and sexual violence, which we'll get into with the different people that I'll talk about. And one of the most important contributions to this, ICTY was recognizing that rape committed during armed conflict could constitute torture and a crime against humanity under international law. So, after someone was convicted, another problem emerged. The ICTY, they of course, had the judges that would convict people. They had the prosecutors, all this stuff, but then they didn't have a prison system necessarily to hold all these 161 people that were, indicted. So except for, when they were having the actual trial, they can hold them during the trial. But after that, where the fuck do they go? It's too much for one country to take all these people, right? So what was going to happen after this? So they decided that instead of operating its own prisons, the ICTY entered into agreements with other countries willing to take these people and enforce the sentences that these people kind of were stuck with. So once a defendant was convicted and all the appeals were exhausted, the tribunal would assign them to one of these countries. And among these countries, they were Norway, Sweden, Austria, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, United Kingdom, and Finland. And
wow, I didn't know this at all.
Yeah. Fun facts for everyone, right?
Also, it's just can you imagine? We know that the in the Nordic countries, prisons tend to be pretty nice places, right?
I was actually going to ask you which country besides Finland, which one would you want to go to? Wait, no, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. No, sorry, take those ones out. Austria, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, UK.
But I still think that probably any of these are generally okay.
I think the UK is pretty. I wouldn't want to have one in the UK, to be honest. I think Austria, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say Austria probably, but the other. I mean, maybe Germany, but probably not.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but I think Austria. I would even choose Norway over Finland or Sweden.
For sure. Norway for
Norway
sure.
is the best.
Isn't it the famous?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, the Finnish authorities weren't deciding whether these people were guilty at all. They were just there to have them to carry out their sentences. So, yeah.
I wonder, what was the agreement? Who paid for it? Because back then, for example, Finland wasn't yet part of EU. We joined in 95.
But I guess United Nations, right?
Yeah. So how does the funding
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this is not an interesting fact at all, but just a question.
But I'm just thinking there must be some way that like I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing, like with the Hague, or like I don't know. I would think that
like wait until you have your own war criminals. We can
we can take them too.
Also, who are we? Like, this is not a specific country asking.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just a bunch of people there, and they're like, okay, let's just make a deal. Everyone takes a couple of these.
Yeah. I guess then you're in good standing for the United Nations if you take some prisoners or something. I don't know.
Like, did they have to volunteer for this?
I think so, yeah. I mean, they signed the agreement. They like didn't have to. They kind of entered the agreement with, so, yeah.
Well, we can maybe find the agreement and see what the terms were.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
So 4 convicted men from the wars in Bosnia would eventually arrive in Finland. And even though they're not, like, as we know, they're not very well known to us because we'd never heard of this before. But I'm going to describe their crimes and whatnot next. So we have the group called the Jokers. So during the Bosnian War, a special military unit operated within the Croatian Defense Council, or the HVO, and this unit was known as the Jokers. And I'm gonna butcher some names, but I'm gonna try. I have the pronunciation. I checked all the pronunciations, but it's still a lot of j and j and ch and
Understandable.
So its commander was Anto Forunja. And before the war, Forunja had been an ordinary citizen, and like many men in the former Yugoslavia, his life changed dramatically when the conflict spread across Bosnia and Herzegovina. So by 1993, the fighting had become increasingly violent, and communities that lived alongside another for many generations were divided, and there was a lot of fear and suspicion and all that jazz when you have war in your neighborhood. So Bosniak civilians were frequently detained on suspicion of supporting enemy forces, and one of those civilians would later become known in court simply as Witness A. So her name has never been made public, and the tribunal protected her identity because of the nature of the crimes she described that were done against her. So there was, according to the ICTY judgment, that Witness A was taken to the Jokers' headquarters near the village of Nodioci in May 1993. And she was brought into a room for questioning, and present in that room was Anto Forungia. Oh, Jesus Christ, I fucked that name up so much. Sorry. Forungia. Ugh. Sorry. Another soldier whose identity was established during the trial stood nearby holding a knife, and the judges found that Witness A was threatened while this Anto guy questioned her. Then the interrogation became something else entirely because, according to the tribunal, the other soldier sexually assaulted and raped Witness A while Anto was continued questioning Witness A. And the court found that Anto remained present throughout the whole assault, and he did not stop it, he did not intervene, and he just let the questioning continue. And the judges concluded that the assault was not separate from the interrogation, and it had become part of the interrogation, and that sexual violence was used as a method of intimidation, coercion, and punishment. So...
Oh, that's fucked up. That's horrible.
Yeah. So... so... Like, at first glance, you're like, okay, why was this guy convicted since he didn't do the raping? He was just questioning her in the room that this guy was raping her, right? I mean, okay, some people would question, like... Because as far as I understood, I was trying to find the guy who actually raped her, like whether he was convicted, and I couldn't find any fucking information about this guy. Mm-hmm. So it's just this Anto that was there. Like, yes, he was more of a commander presence, you know, but like...
But isn't that often the war crime thingy that, like, the one who orders, let's say, I don't know, genocide or bombing of a civilian
Sure,
place,
but like,
but
in this case... Yeah, but I feel like in this case, you could have at least gotten both of them because, like, 2 for 1, you know, kind of deal. Like, with this witness said that, you know, they raped me, and then, like,
maybe they just couldn't, like, actually prove the identity of that person if there were many soldiers
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, so this question became one of the central legal issues in the trial. So the ICTY examined international humanitarian law, previous war crime judgments, and evidence presented by witnesses. And the judge concluded that torture does not always require a person to inflict physical pain directly, though I think rape can be physical pain. Like, I mean, okay, sure. But someone who actively participates in an interrogation while another person commits acts of sexual violence can share criminal responsibility when the abuse is part of the interrogation itself. So they found Anto's president's authority and continued participation contributed to the crime, and as a result, he was convicted of torture as a violation of the laws or customs of war and outrages upon personal dignity, including rape. So the judgment also became one of the ICTY's most influential decisions because it recognized that rape committed during armed conflict could constitute torture under international law. And so in 1998, however, it represented an important development in international criminal jurisprudence. So, so witness A, the trial itself relied heavily on the witness's testimony, and they described the interrogation in detail. And of course, the defense challenged her credibility and whatnot because they never wanted to believe the victim. And so basically, as cases are happening years earlier, the court examined inconsistencies between different statements. Like if they just had her statement right after it happened versus years later, of course, it might change a little bit. And the judges acknowledged that some minor discrepancies existed, but they concluded that they were understandable given the trauma that she experienced and the passage of time. And the trial chamber found her overall testimony to be credible and reliable. And the appeals chamber later upheld the assessment, because remember that all the appeals had to be kind of used up in order for these men to be sent to the prisons in different countries. So they weren't going to send them back between, the Netherlands and Finland or Netherlands and whatever country multiple times. So, and the cases involving sexual violence often depend heavily on survivor testimony and making careful judicial evaluation. So the Anto's judgment has been cited as legal scholarship in later international cases dealing with conflict-related sexual violence. So in December 1998, the ICTY sentenced Anto Foroggia, Jesus Christ, sorry, to 10 years imprisonment.
We don't know how to pronounce it either.
Yeah, well, I can send it in the chat, and you can let's all try to pronounce this.
But I guess for any listeners who actually... No.
Well. Forungia?
Yeah, I would say
Forungia.
Gia, Gia, like a Gia sound, like a
Forungia. Okay, well, maybe.
Think, yeah.
Or I mean, the Serbian listeners can correct us.
Yeah. So appeals chamber upheld everything. He would serve 10 years, and he wasn't going to be in any of those countries, not the Netherlands, etc., in Finland. So in 2000, Anto Foroggia was transferred to Finland, and then he entered the Finnish prison system, and he was later granted early release after serving the portion of his sentence required under the tribunal's enforcement rules. Yeah, so, and he's, since he's in Finland, all of his ordinary, all the kind of daily life is governed by Finnish law. Because he's in Finland, it's not governed by some international law. And so Finland can't, reduce the sentence or increase it or release him whenever they wish. They would have to be decided with his international court.
So it's just outsourced to Finland, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, So now we're going to go on to a man named Hazim Delic and the Celebici camp or detention camp. So, as in every war, there's prisons and detention camps, and these, are quite common in war. So during the Bosnian War, one such place was this Celebici detention camp, and It was located in the town of Konjic in central Bosnia, and the camp was established in 1992. It was operated by Bosnian government and Bosnian Croat forces and was used to detain primarily Bosnian Serb civilians and captured soldiers. And the existence of the camp, of course, was not itself illegal, but international humanitarian law parties to an armed conflict may detain prisoners of war and, in some circumstances, civilians. But the question before the International Criminal Tribunal of the former Yugoslavia, or the ICTY, was that how people were treated inside this camp, you know. So after hearing months of testimony from survivors, guards, investigators, and experts, the judges concluded that the main detainees had been subjected to severe abuse. And they found evidence of repeated beatings, torture, inhumane living conditions, humiliation, sexual violence, and several murders. And 4 men were prosecuted in what would be known as the Celibici case. 2 of them, Hazim Delic and Esad Lanjo, would later serve their prison sentences in Finland. So this is the next 2 of them. So Hazim Delic served as a deputy commander of the Celibici camp, and the tribunal found that he exercised authority over prisoners and guards during much of the period covered by the indictment. Unlike some international cases that rely primarily on command responsibility, the judges found that Delic had personally committed a number of crimes. And according to the judgment, he repeatedly beat prisoners with objects including wooden planks, cables, and other implements. And the court found that he tortured detainees during interrogations and was responsible for several murders within the camp. And the tribunal heard evidence that prisoners were often kept in overcrowded conditions with inadequate food, poor sanitation, and constant fear of violence. And they described routine abuse. And the former prisoners testified that beatings became so common that detainees never knew whether a guard entering a room intended to ask a question or begin another assault. And the judges concluded that Delic personally participated in acts of torture and cruel treatment and bore responsibility for multiple serious violations of international humanitarian law. So first would be the sexual violence. One of the most significant aspects of Celibici judgment involves sexual violence. So the tribunal heard evidence that female detainees were sexually assaulted while in custody. And in one instance, they found that Delic raped a female prisoner inside the camp. And once again, these constituted torture under international law because it was used to intimidate, punish, and degrade the victim. And at the time, the ICTY was helping establish important precedents that would later influence the International Criminal Court and other international tribunals. So, yeah, the judgment was that in 1998, the trial chamber convicted Hazim Delic of numerous offenses, including murder, torture, cruel treatment, willfully causing great suffering, and violations of the laws or customs of war. On appeal, some legal findings were modified, but the convictions for the most serious crimes, including murder, torture, and inhumane treatment, remained. And the appeals chamber reduced his sentence from 20 years to 18 years imprisonment, and largely because one conviction was overturned, and while the remaining convictions were upheld. So 18 years for murder and torture and stuff doesn't seem like much in my mind.
No. I mean, it's better than some other, outcomes that we hear about sometimes. But anyway, it's still pretty short. How old was this guy when he was?
Good question. I'm not sure. One of the guys is mentioned that I'll discuss later. He's like 18 years old or 19 or something. But I think these guys are regular aged men. I don't know, probably between 30 and 40 or something. I don't know, 30 between like 30s and 40s. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Proper adults.
Yeah. They should know. I think their frontal lobes were fully formed at this point, so they should know.
Yeah, but I was asking because if they were much older than 18 years, might that actually mean a life sentence? But maybe not.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, like 18 years is different if you're 20 or if you're 60.
Yeah.
Like what remains of your life after that.
True. I can find that out later on Hazim Delic. So Yeah, so after the appeals concluded, the ICTY transferred Hazim Delic to Finland to serve his sentence, and yeah, so they hung out there. And then the other one was Esad Lanjo. And so, like, if you can think of Hazim Delic as a senior figure of the camp, Esad Lanjo was one of the camp guards, and he was only 19 years old when many of the crimes took place. And his age became one of the most discussed aspects of this trial because the defense argued that Lanjo's youth and psychological immaturity should be taken into account. And of course, the judges agreed that his age was relevant, but they also concluded that the seriousness of the crimes outweighed the mitigating factor of his age. And the tribunal found that Lanjo personally carried out repeated acts of brutality against detainees. And according to the judgment, prisoners were beaten with wooden planks, rifle butts, metal objects, and other implements. And several witnesses described being kicked, punched, and struck repeatedly while unable to defend themselves. And they found that he also tortured prisoners through physical abuse and degrading treatment. And some detainees later died from their injuries inflicted in the camp. And while others survived with lasting physical and psychological trauma. So, and the tribunal concluded that these were not isolated incidents. They formed a pattern of abuse directed at vulnerable detainees who were entirely under control of the camp personnel. So, yeah, the question is, can someone so young be responsible? I would say yes.
Yes, I mean, we have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah,
and
I mean, 18... there's also reason. Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, can you argue that if you're 22 versus 27 versus 38, like...
Yeah.
Somewhere we have the line, and then it is the line.
Yeah. I mean, they also got expert evidence from about his personality, his upbringing, his emotional development. And in the end, they concluded that although his youth deserved consideration during sentencing, it did not excuse his actions. So international humanitarian law applies regardless of age once a person is criminally responsible. And the tribunal sentenced Lanjo to 15 years imprisonment, and he was later transferred to Finland to serve his sentence. Once again, this was kind of like a landmark case, this Celibici case, and not because of the convictions itself, but because it clarified several important principles of international criminal law. And once again, that sexual violence may constitute torture, and the prison camps are not beyond the reach of international law, and they should be held to kind of a certain standard. You need to treat everybody with respect within a prisoner camp, still. So
I mean, unlikely that would ever happen, but anyway, this is extreme.
Yeah. So by the time that Hazim Delic and Esad Lanjo arrived in Finland, the country's prisons had become part of international system. So Finland and Finland's prisons had become part of the international system of justice. And but there was one more ICTY prisoner who would follow the same path and end up in Finland. So we're going to talk about kind of one of the most important ideas in international criminal law, and that is, quote unquote, command responsibility. So in the final part of this episode, we'll talk about Zlatko Aleksovsky. Zlatko Aleksovsky. Yes. A bit easier to say. Still a tongue twister, but easier to say. There's no ch and sh and chi. Okay. So the final guy that was sent to Finland, why was he sent here? So, so indeed, this principle is kind of simple of command responsibility. Leaders don't have to personally pull a trigger or strike a prisoner to commit a crime. So if they know or have reason to know that crimes are being committed by people under their authority, then they fail to prevent those crimes or punishment or punish those responsible, then they can be held criminally liable. So yeah, saying that I didn't know it was happening. Bullshit. You're in a command role, so you should know basically what's happening with your underlings, you know? Oh, that was a really
so
loud
loud.
purr. Hello, Postivaunut.
Oh. Wow.
Wow, she's going crazy.
She's very loud.
Yeah, the other night I thought that someone was using a motorbike outside.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, sorry, the timing was weird.
No, it's fine. It was some comic relief, I guess. Or makes me slow down a little bit more because I'm just like breezing through this.
But yeah, I mean, like in a way, that's my classic idea how when I hear war crime, that's like the first thing I think is like someone who commanded something horrible. Like because other stuff, like let's say assault, beating someone, it's similar to normal crime. Like it would be crime also in normal situation. It's more clear. Like you do something bad, you get punished.
Yeah. So basically going along with this, that this idea has existed in military law for centuries. So it's basically, it's kind of one of the more, traditional war crimes, I would say, as you kind of pointed out as well. But the ICTY helped define how this applies to modern international criminal law. And like I said, one of these men, Zlatko Aleksovsky, was one of the guys that was kind of found to be guilty under these conventions. So Aleksovsky served as commander of the Kajonik detention facility near the city of Busovaca in central Bosnia. And like the Celibici camp, I guess it would be Busovaca. Anyway, Kajonik held detainees during the Bosnian War. So many were Bosniak civilians or captured soldiers. And unlike Hazim Delic and Esad Lanjo, Aleksovsky was not convicted because the tribunal found that he personally carried out acts of torture. Instead, prosecutors argued that as commander, he was responsible for what happened inside the prison. So which makes me think, like, who was the higher up in the other prison? It wasn't Hazim Delic, I think. So anyway, just as a aside,
maybe they got, like, aren't we just talking about the ones who were sent to Finland? Like maybe the commander was just sent to another country prison.
Yeah,
hopefully.
True. Yeah, I mean, 161 people, I guess there's bound to be some people. Yeah. So there was evidence that was presented that basically said that there was prisoners that were being beaten by guards or forced to dig trenches near the front lines, used for dangerous labor and held in degrading conditions. That'd be so shitty. Like, you're digging trenches and like people are shooting at you because they think you're the enemy, but you're not, you know? That would be pretty fucked up.
Yes.
That's like unusual torture.
Yeah. Yes.
And some detainees were taken.
Track.
Yeah.
The first.
Some detainees were taken from the prison to perform forced labor in areas exposed to military attack, and international humanitarian law prohibits this. They prohibit compelling protected persons to carry out dangerous military work. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense because like if you're not part of that military, then why would you be like forcefully put into the military to carry out military, like actions and stuff? So
I mean, it's a cruel strategy. Like you don't want to lose your own soldiers, so you just put the enemy civilians there.
Yeah,
or even soldiers, I don't know, but anyway, like
so the judges did not convict him of every charge brought by the prosecutors, and they acquitted him of several of the most serious allegations, including certain grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions. And Yeah, so of course, you know, all of these aren't blindly believed, so you know, you have to bring evidence, etc. So they must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, just like in any court of law. And yeah, so a lot of this didn't really meet the standard. So not saying that he didn't do this, it's just that it didn't meet the standard of, like, you know, enough evidence or whatnot. So yeah, so however, the tribunal did conclude that Alexovsky bore criminal responsibility for outrages upon personal dignity, both through his own conduct and through his responsibility as a superior. And the judges found that he knew prisoners were being abused and failed to take adequate steps to stop the mistreatment or discipline those responsible. And initially, the trial chamber sentenced him to 2.5 years imprisonment, but the prosecution appealed, arguing that the sentence did not reflect the seriousness of the crimes. And the appeals chamber agreed, and after reviewing the case, it increased Alexovsky's sentence to 7 years imprisonment. So later he was transferred to Finland to serve the remainder of the sentence. I'm just wondering also, because they were they were detained this whole time during the trials, right? I guess that counts as time served, so yeah. So
maybe, I think it usually does.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So he probably didn't spend that much time here. Yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, it. Like, of course, life in prison in Finland and stuff is quite, I would say, quite mild compared to other countries.
Compared to what the victims had to endure because of these people.
Complete fucking opposite. Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah,
but I mean, of course, that's the thing. It's never actual revenge that someone who did bad would get the same, like, equal level of bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, everybody says, like, I mean, it says that some critics, you know, argued that Nordic prisons are too comfortable for people convicted of such serious crimes. And of course, you know, others respond that, you know, international justice is measured not by the harsh conditions, but by lawful punishment, and which I also agree with. And yeah, so we were kind of discussing earlier, like, why did Finland agree to take these people? And well, I guess we also discussed, like, the cost, but I don't have an answer to the cost. But yeah, so it kind of relies on Finnish foreign policy. And so for decades, Finland has placed significant emphasis on international cooperation and the rules of law and support for the United Nations. And accepting convicted prisoners was one practical way of supporting international criminal justice. And like I said, since the tribunal didn't have a prison system itself, except for holding the people during the trials, and, you know, so without these countries that I had named earlier willing to enforce sentences, the judgments would have been little more than words on paper. So they'd just been like, okay, yeah, you're convicted, you're 18 years, but then disappear into the ether, you know? And though, yeah, like, Finland accepted quite a small number of these prisoners, because, I mean, in the end, like, there was quite many, so broken up between many different countries. I think originally there was 161 indicted, so quite a small number in the end.
But if you compare to, like, the amount of prisons, like the amount of people that we have in Finland, the amount of prisons, of course, countries like UK and France, Germany have more population, so more prisons.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for this case. But then next time, I'm going to go to a case about that would lead Finnish investigators to Rwanda and later to Liberia, and also maybe even from conflict in eastern Ukraine, and so
this can become a series, right? You meant that this could be not just one more episode, but several.
So next time I'll cover, as I'm breaking my the silence, or like the mystery right now, but we'll go to Rwanda, where Finnish detectives gathered evidence for nearly 2 decades after a genocide, and how this is related to Francois Bazaramba. And then we'll go to the former rebel commander Gabriel Massaquoi, and that one's quite interesting. I think you probably know it, Petra, like, or I don't know, it was news last year, I think it was, or the year before that. It was quite big Finnish news. And he used to live in Tampere, actually, this guy, this Gabriel Massaquoi. So, yeah, and there's money involved in that one, which is interesting.
Yeah, it was in the news.
Yeah,
Didn't I also have involvement in some political activity here? Or maybe I'm mixing him with someone. But yeah, I remember this being in the media.
Yeah, so that one was quite interesting. Like, in the end, it was like, really? Okay, yeah. We'll get into it, but it was interesting.
Sure, in a few weeks.
Yeah, yes. Okay, but that was
but that was very interesting, very educational.
Yeah, sorry, it was a lot of talking. Not a lot of banter, just a lot of me talking.
Yeah.
Well, we had enough banter in the beginning, but this was like really good to know. I didn't know about these like this system about international court and other countries taking in prisoners and which ones have volunteered before and all that stuff.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, but yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
Exciting,
and I'll
also
go next.
Looking forward to.
Yeah,
looking forward to continuing. Okay, yeah. So is that the plan? We'll figure out, I guess, what's our.
But I think I'll probably go next since I have the notes figured out. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea of what to do.
Okay, so we're messing up the order a little bit.
Well, we'll just say this is part 1 of like Finland International Court or something like that, and then.
I mean we've had this before, like
that's true.
2-parters.
Okay, great. So then people can hopefully listen to the next one in 2 weeks.
Sounds
we'll
good.
See.
Cool. All right. You can follow us on Instagram at Translation Murder Podcast. You can send us an email at translationmurderpodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment on our YouTube channel too, which is great. We got 1. And this was what also prompted me possibly to cover a Serbian case as well. I may or may not have searched for Serbian cases.
We don't have a lot of views on YouTube, but at least that one episode about Marinko Magda, the Serbian contract killer.
Quote unquote contract killer. Alleged, right?
Okay, anyway. Well, I mean, he's in prison for different crimes. Anyway, the guy
like if someone has been convicted in the court, I think then it's not up to us.
It's a kangaroo court, Petra. It's a kangaroo court, okay? Who knows?
So I wouldn't say that it went viral, because it definitely didn't. I think the standards for a threshold for that would be way higher. But anyway, even though the other episodes have very few views, that one has like 300. So
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
So we should do more angry. Maybe this will make other people angry about how I pronounce things, and if I, that'll be like, oh, this motherfucking bitch, like she's doing shit. Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, you can still follow us and rage bait. We'll do more rage bait next week.
No,
no, I like our Serbian. I don't know. I like Serbians. I had a friend in master's program who was Serbian. But yeah, anyway, he was cool.
Yes, and we like Serbians. We like everyone. We are doing our best here. So be nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Cool. That was a nice exit. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.